Political theorist Hannah Fennikel Pitkin, in her 1988 essay, Are Freedom and Liberty Twins?, writes that English speakers have a unique opportunity as they get to choose between liberty and freedom. No other European language, ancient or modern, offers such a choice. Sir Isaiah Berlin, for instance, in his famous essay on liberty, declares that he will use both words to mean the same. English philosopher Maurice Cranston concludes that in English usage, the words freedom and liberty are virtually interchangeable. Pitkin claims that there are significant differences in meaning between freedom and liberty. She contends that freedom is the capacity to do things in the world, while liberty is the absence of external institutional constraints. In this video, I will examine the definitions of liberty and freedom in Western civilization and answer Pitkin's question, are freedom and liberty twins? Almost all will agree that the idea of liberty was created in the cities of ancient Greece. The writings of Greek philosophers and historians transmitted it to the Romans and later to modern Europe and America. Liberty is an integral concept in Western political and social thought. Since George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, considered one of the founding figures of Western philosophy, the concept of liberty has often been characterized in a threefold manner. There are moral liberties, such as freedom of conscience, civil liberties, such as freedom of speech, and political liberties, freedom of individuals in relation to the state. All three of these categories being attributes of individuals or personal freedoms, as the term liberty is often described. They still, however, fall under the umbrella of freedom. Some of the great Renaissance writers had different definitions of liberty. According to Niccolò Machiavelli, the preservation of liberty is closely related to the maintenance of a particular form of government. He believed that the liberty of individual citizens can only be secured if the political community is maintained in the state of liberty. Thomas Hobbes' conception of liberty was in sharp contrast to Machiavelli's. Unlike Machiavelli, Hobbes dismissed the idea that the preservation of individual liberty requires the maintenance of a particular type of regime. According to Hobbes, liberty properly called is what he called natural liberty. That is, under the natural condition, humans have no legal obligations. They are capable of exercising powers without being physically prevented or compelled. According to John Locke, law and freedom are not mutually exclusive. Locke thus restored the relationship between liberty and moral order that was severed by Hobbes. In contrast to Hobbes, Locke attributed to the state the function of assuring the protection of its citizens' property, including civil and religious liberty. In his book, Freedom in the Making of Western Culture, Dr. Orlando Patterson, a sociologist at Harvard University, offers a three-part definition of freedom as it pertains to Western civilization. The first is what he refers to as a personal freedom, or freedom from coercion by the state. These personal freedoms are the same as individual liberties, such as freedom of speech or the right to a fair trial. Patterson describes his second form of freedom, which he calls sovereignal, that is, the power to act as one pleases, regardless of the wishes of others. That, to me, is the ultimate definition of freedom. Patterson also discusses what he calls civic freedom, which he defines as the capacity of adult members of a community to participate in its life and governance. Patterson argues that these concepts are the three integral elements of the uniquely Western code of freedom. So, are liberty and freedom twins? Perhaps not identical, but more like fraternal twins. They share many similarities, as personal freedoms are still freedoms, but they do differ. The difference is that freedom is God-given and can be enjoyed outside of a political system, whereas liberties are rights given to individuals by a governing body. Thank you.